Hello YouTube, this is Froogle and welcome to Tapini, New Guinea, and the first of a series of flights exploring this new scenery pack from Orbx. Now, I hadn't heard anything about this pack until I covered it for the news show, the Frooglesome News, where I mentioned that this was an upcoming product and then it was released, and it's actually very cool and quite exciting, which is why I jumped on it as soon as it released. Tapini is actually a collection of 6 very rough field airstrips in Papua New Guinea, all in one package. They're all very tricky to fly in and out of, and it's just a different kind of flying really, and I wanted to explore. Now originally I was going to do this trip flying in one of the A2A aircraft, the A2A Comanche or the Cherokee probably, but this first airport we're starting at is 3,500 feet up. We're flying to an airport that is 5,000 feet above sea level, and to get there we need to clear mountains at an altitude of about 11,000 feet, which really means the A2A GA aircraft, as absolutely phenomenal as they are not suitable. So today we'll be taking this, which is the RealAir Simulations Lancair Legacy, and in my head I still call that a Lancair because I always have, but the correct name is Lancair. So here we are. There is one runway here in Tapini, which is this one, and let me show you what it looks like. That's the runway. Notice it's sloping, which is kind of a big deal as well. We don't normally get sloping airports in Prepared or FSX, but here we are with a sloping airport. All of them are sloping, in fact. This one's particularly challenging because it just ends in a cliff face and drops off, and then you need to turn or you collide with that. Now, I did have some trouble getting the scenery working initially. I do advise, if you get Tapini, and I highly recommend that you do, that you read the manual. I'm notorious for not reading manuals for scenery, but you need to read a manual for this because they recommend in the manual that you go and download a free scenery pack from Orbx called Orbx Mesh, which provides the accurate mesh for all these hills and mountains and the mesh for Tapini itself. Without that, you end up starting the flight and just tumbling and crashing into stuff that doesn't actually exist. It's going to be a short flight today. We're going to go to, now I'm notorious as well for not being able to pronounce foreign country names and cities and places and stuff like that. We're going to Voitapi. Yeah, that's where we're going to go. Thankfully, I have a GPS that's going to direct us to it and provide me with something more pronounceable. Let me recenter track IR here. So the GPS I'm using, I can change the view here, is actually this one, which I mentioned in a video as well. This is the Flight1 GTN 650. Flight1 reached out to me a while ago and said, would I like a copy? And I said, no. I'm not particularly interested in doing videos of GPSs. That's not what I do, so they didn't send it. And then I decided that I was a moron, and I ended up having to go and buy this. So I bought the Flight1 GTN 650. It's phenomenal. I am hoping to get the 750 soon, which is even more phenomenal. But for today, we're going to be using the 650. Very briefly, because it's such a short flight. Going to be using the GTN 650 to really plot a direct route from Tapini here out to Woitape. Yeah, hang on. Let me spell it to you. Well, it's Whiskey Tango Papa, Woitape, Woitape. I'm sure that's incorrect, but even so. So let's run through the pre-flight and everything else in this. I'm using Track IR today. In fact, let me recenter it here, and I can show you. There you go. Because it is a VFR flight. Even at 11,000 feet, it's going to be a VFR flight. So working through our pre-flight cockpit checks. Well, let's close the roof here because it looks like it's going to rain. In fact, the weather is a little bit interesting here today. It is windy and rainy, which makes for an interesting flight as well. So parking brake, we'll set that. All switches need to be off. I'll change my view using Easy Dock. Put all these switches off. They are all off. We'll make sure all our avionics switches are off. There is no power switch on the Flight1 GTN 650. It's just on. It's just how it is. But everything here is all off, so we're all good. Our landing gear switch should be in a down position. Now, the Lancair Legacy is flown with the joystick. And I have a video coming out soon showing how to do maintenance on the Thrustmaster Warthog. And that's what I'm flying with today. So my Thrustmaster Warthog is very clicky. You will hear clicky noises like that, which is the throttle quadrant on the Warthog. But anyway, landing gear switch should be down, which it is. Battery, we'll turn that on, and then we'll go and check the VMC 1000 startup sequence here. Make sure we have no errors. Fabulous, everything's looking good. We have full tank of fuel, so it's going to be quite a heavy aircraft. Fuel quantity is checked. Annunciator warning lights, we're going to test those, make sure they all come on. And they do. Trim tabs, we're going to set those to 0. Now this is pretty tricky to do. The elevator trim is here, and it actually shouldn't be 0. These two, the aileron trim and rudder trim, should be, but the elevator trim, we're going to have that all the way back, like so. You can see that little light there moved, because we're going to need to be pulling very hard when we hit the end of the runway. Altimeter set, well, I'm not going to cheat and press the B key. I am going to press the B key to set the altimeter, but only after I've done it properly and got the weather for here. Canopy is closed and locked. Harness and rudder pedals are adjusted. Flight control should be free. They are. That's all good. Circuit breakers are all in. Yes, they are. Fuel selector should be both, which it is. So let's start this up and get some power into the aircraft, and then we can turn on the radios and stuff using the Flight1 GTN. And I can show you what that's all about briefly. So fuel boost on. Throttle. Going to crack it about 1/4 inch. Probably about there. Prop full. Mixture full rich. Great. And let's start this beast up. In fact, let's do it properly, shall we? So we'll look around here. We're all good there and there. So clear. We'll roll that up to right, left, both, and start. And up she goes. And we're going to warm up at about 1,000 to 100 RPM. You see it over here. It's just bringing the power back. Now we are on the ground, so we're going to lean. We're also 3,000 feet up, so we're going to lean a little bit more aggressively than normal. Just listen to the engine. That honestly is about as much as I dare to do. Fuel boost pump can go off now. Nav lights, I should have put those on already, so they'll go on right now. Okay, let's go to the next page of the checklist. Alternator switch needs to go on. We'll check that our display on the display here is good. So oil pressure is 56, temperature is 158, that's all good. No warnings here. We have nav lights on, parking brakes on, so we're good. Engine readings are within limits. Now we can turn the avionics master on. And then we can turn all these units on. There goes the Garmin GTN 650. By the way, well, I'll talk about it in a minute, but the GTN 650 is very cool. It's accurate to the point, that you need to install Garmin's own GTN training software, because this thing uses that software to provide you with all the right information. It's that good. It's a very, very accurate simulation of the Garmin GTN 650. Touchscreen. So let's touch the screen. We're all up. It's going through its test. Everything's good. You have a message just saying that it's licensed. Licensed to me. It's a non-entertainment product. Okay, got it. Great. Doing its test here as well. Fabulous. Now this is, as I said, this is a touchscreen model. It's very good and it integrates really well with the RealAir simulations aircraft like this one, and it will manage the autopilot and everything else. We're not going to be using the autopilot today. We will set it up just in case I get distracted and need to hand over control here. So let's turn the transponder. We're going to put that into alt. Altitude reporting. Great. And enter. So that's on. 122.00 for active sky next to give us the weather. We'll switch that over.
Alpha, Yankee, Papa, Yankee, airport information, Juliet 1521, Zulu, weather, wind 294, at 10, visibility 10, sky condition 1800, scattered, ceiling 4000, broken, light rain, temperature 30, 2.27, QNH 1006, advise on initial contact, you have information.
Right, QNH 1006, wind is 294 at 10 knots and it's gusting as well. We'll press B now. There we go. So the QNH has been set with 3,200 feet up. There is no traffic here, no ATC. This is an un-ATC'd airport, I think. I could be wrong on that, but anyway. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a direct to here to the nearest airport, which is that one. Alpha Yankee Whiskey Tango. Waitate about 19.8 miles away. So we'll do direct there, activate. Done. Direct 120 degrees now. Well, we can't because we're not flying, but it does actually set up this down here and we can use that to track whether or not we are on course, which is very handy indeed. What we're actually going to do, when we get to the end of the runway here, we're going to turn hard left and start climbing. And as we get up to about 8,000 or 9,000 feet and still climbing, we're going to turn to the left and come back to this airport, and then we'll intersect this path here. and fly 120 degrees down to the destination. So that's kind of cool. I like this. This does a whole bunch of stuff, by the way. I'll show more detail on this in a second video, I'm sure. But for now, we'll just leave it as it is. We'll get rid of that display. Okay, so I'm not going to taxi. Now, the RealAir simulations, you can use their config tool on their aircraft to set between bush and tarmac. So this is bush grass strip, so that reduces the bug in prepared and FSX where suspension movement is exaggerated on a rough strip. We don't have that problem here, but even so, it is very hard to taxi uphill. It is very hard to turn against the hill, so I'm not going to do things completely correct, which would be to go up there, all the way up there, turn around and then come back. I'm actually going to taxi out and just take off. So I'm going to do my run up and everything right here on the ground. So parking brake, it is still set. We have the warning light up. So I'm going to set the throttle to 1500 RPM. Wonderful. We'll check the props and the governor. Seeing a nice drop there and back up. Do that a couple of times. Good. Check the mags. Should be no more than a 50 RPM drop. So we're at 1560 now. 1520 now. So it's a 40-45 drop. Doesn't move on the right one. Good. Put it both to both. Engine readouts are within limits. We have already leaned a little bit. We're going to set the throttle now back to idle. And we're done with our run up. So what I'm going to do right now is set up the autopilot. As I said, we're not going to use it, but it is good practice to have this thing set up. So, altitude. It's going to be 11,000 feet. Dial that up there. Oops, a little bit too much. 12,000. I keep getting this horribly wrong. Hang on. One. There. No. Come on now. 11,000 feet with a vertical speed of 1,000 feet per minute. It is going to be on nav mode. We'll turn the flight director. Actually, I just screwed up. It'll be on nav mode. We're all set there. Yaw damper will be on. Good. So that is all set. So we have our nav lights on already. We're going to turn the strobes on, and then we'll turn the pitot heat on. Don't need the fuel pumps on at this point. I'm just going to adjust my seat here a little bit. And we'll re-enable track IR, make sure my view is all centered. Okay, so like I said, there is no way we can take off without flaps down here. We're actually going to need 2 stages of it. So we'll flick the switch down. There's the second stage. Knock the brakes off. Increase power. We'll go mixture full rich for the takeoff. We'll lean it once again once we get it in flight. Come on, you can see how hard it is to get this even moving. I have a free castering nose wheel, so I'm turning on the brakes. Rudder is not active at this point. Okay, max power. 29 maximum pressure, manifold pressure, and 2700 RPM. We have an engine warning, so we went a little bit over there. Just backed off a little bit there. Speed's coming up nicely. Speed needs to come up even more nicely. It's going to be tense. I'm going to let it keep running to the end here and pull back hard. And up we get. Positive rate. Gear up. And we'll bring up that first stage of flaps now as well. And start our turn. Notice the GTN 650 is already telling me terrain warning. I can click on the screen and bring up the terrain display. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to concentrate right now on flying. Just trimming to reduce back pressure on the joystick. Look at that full trim. Try to climb out of here. We'll start turning. Feeding in the rudder. You know what I forgot to do is my strobe lights and my landing lights. Not a big deal. I'll bring up the flaps again. Strobes, landings. Sorry about that. Pitot heat on. And we'll keep on climbing up. Now if I can get this established, nicely trimmed, which I think I do, I'm going to try and lean the mixture a bit again. That sounds good. Beautiful tone from that engine. I'm going to bring the props back now to about 26. And we're good. We're climbing up 1500 feet per minute, 110 knots. Flaps are up. Gear is up. we're actually in good shape. Let me pop open the display here. And we'll zoom in. Terrain, pull up. Let's go to the terrain display. There it is. We are about to collide right here. So we need to keep on climbing. Oops. To clear that, which we'll do. Beautiful scenery, as always with Orbx. And the fact that most of this that we're flying around now is the free Holger mesh terrain is fantastic. So even if you don't get Tapini, you can get the free Holger mesh and experience these beautiful mountains here. 5,200 feet. We are going completely the wrong way because we have no choice. We need to climb over these mountains. They are very high. Thankfully the terrain display on the GTN 650 there has calmed down. We're not at risk of dying right now if we stay on course. But it is a little windy. We need to keep an eye on that as well. Climbing very, very nicely. At 6,000 feet. Take a look outside real quick. And there we are. Stunning, stunning scenery. Weather, as always in my videos, is being provided by Active Sky Next. Look how much I've trimmed. You see that elevator there trimmed almost full up. It's crazy. Let's get back in our cockpit. Continuing to climb very nicely. Coming up on a point where we can start turning around without being at risk. So we'll probably turn there. I could turn now, but we'll do things by the book. And this is such a fun aircraft to fly anyway. I have no problem spending a bit more time in it than I plan to. There's the valley that we can turn down according to the display up here. We'll just go a little bit further. Lightning off in the distance. This is Papua New Guinea. Weather is variable and unpredictable. Alright, so let's start our turn. Feeding in the left rudder to coordinate the turn here. Bit of back pressure to maintain our climb. $8,000 feet now. And we will continue on this heading for a second as we keep on climbing. Still have terrain warnings left and right. Getting a great view of the scenery at this altitude as well. Oh, let's reduce that climb. So now I can start coming off the trim a little bit. Looking good. And of course, the higher we go, the stronger the winds are, so we are going to get blown around a little bit, particularly when we clear these ridges and get really exposed to what's going on out there. Now, all these airports in the Orbx Tapini pack, as I said, they're all bush, they're all tricky, rough airstrips. Unfortunately and sadly, many of them have had fatalities and accidents very recently in real life. Tape, where we're going, had a fatal crash for an aircraft departing that runway in 2014. I think 4 people died in that, unfortunately, in an Islander. So that's another, not the crashes or anything, but that shows some of the challenge and why this scenery pack is actually quite exciting. Particularly if you're one of the many people who spends all their time in an airliner. Let's try and trim this a little bit more. Sorry, not trim. Lean this. Oh, a little bit too much, I think. Now, as we're coming up on 10,000, we'll put the landing lights off. And we'll start our left turn now to head back towards Tapini. Looking around, keeping an eye out of the window. Absolutely vital here because of the high elevation of the surrounding mountains. 10,000 feet. Wonderful. As you roll like that and yaw, or sorry, feeding the rudder, you can hear the wind pushing against the side of the airframe. I'm going to reduce the prop RPM now to about 24. Look at that. The runway we're heading to is not lit, so it's not possible to do this at night. That would be bad. In fact, it's incredibly hard to see even in the daytime. 10,500. Just see our route coming into display now on the map. Excuse me. And as we hit 11,000, I trim the aircraft for straight and level as much as I can. You can already see the wind is starting to grab the airframe. Oh, I'm breathing heavily. Oxygen. There we go. I was going to turn on the oxygen. Another reason to use this aircraft. I could hear the breathing in my ears there. There we go. We'll trim this up. A little bit more back pressure just to hold us at 11,000. And we'll come off the prop a little bit more to about 20 or 2,000 RPM. Good. Climb back on up to our altitude. We're a little bit under. And start trimming nose down. The Legacy here is a lot of fun to fly. It is possible to trim it nicely. I'm doing a terrible job right now. But even then, you still need to monitor everything, keep an eye on everything. It's a very hands-on aircraft, which is another reason I'm not using the autopilot today, even though right now I could. All I would have to do is hit that magic AB button, and we will be on our way. But no, it's more fun to actually fly this thing. Watching the yellow bar on the HSI, which should start moving in a second. There it goes. So we'll start our turn round to 120. Quite a nimble aircraft. It is aerobatic. There's where we took off from. Can you see that down there? Insane! Insane airport. The final video in this series. We will of course be returning there. That'll be fun. Oh, lost a lot of altitude. Wasn't paying attention. Too busy looking out the window. Not a problem. We'll climb on up to 11,000 again. As we establish ourselves on course. Oh, you don't want to have a problem here, look. Very remote. Hard to get to, hard to be rescued from. And we're on our way. Again, just trying to trim a little bit here. Let me take a look at the display. So let's go back. And we'll bring up the map. 18 miles to go. Single runway at the destination. Really only one possible direction to land in. Which is on a heading of about, I guess, 330. But you'll see. It's tricky. Look outside as we climb on up. There we are. RealAir Sims did a fantastic job with this aircraft. I'm really enjoying it. Not using the turbo version. That is an option you can turn on or off in the aircraft's config panel. I'm using the standard, normally aspirated version. Bit of a freeze there as prepared loads in new scenery, no doubt. I think I trimmed a little bit too much nose down there. 14 miles to go. Now, in fact, what I will do, I am going to turn the autopilot on because I want to show you the GPS real quick. So let me just turn that on. I'll pop this open here. So what I can do here, this is very, very cool. I can actually find out all sorts of information about anything. So let's go and look at nearest there, nearest airport. This is where we're going. You can bring up all sorts of information here. So I can see that it's 5,100 feet up, which is nice. I can also see information on the runways. There's a single runway here, I think. Yep, 1533, 3,000 feet long, soft surface, left traffic. Very cool. You can find out all sorts of useful information, which is great if you're flying VFR like this and you haven't done all the research you probably need to do. You can just look it up in flight. Found this to be very, very useful. Anyway, let's turn the autopilot off and get back to flying. Recenter my view. Quite a lot of cloud up here. There was light rain earlier at the destination airfield. Not sure if it's still the case. I guess we'll see shortly. Already see I'm getting jostled around by the winds aloft here. The flashing message is probably indicating that I'm about to enter airspace of this airport. Let's have a look. Yep, less than 10 minutes. Now, very, very tricky airport to see at the best of times. More so in this aircraft with its low wing. You know, a Cessna would have been ideal for sightseeing here because of that high wing. You get a much clearer view of what's beneath you. So we're going to do this a little bit blind. I'm actually going to overfly the airport and then turn using the GPS really to get a good view, good idea of where I am. Here comes the rain. Light showers today as well as the wind. Not a problem. No windshield wipers in a Lancair Legacy. Not really going to need them today. Really getting bumped around here. 4 miles to go. A little bit off course. So I'll just turn back here. Look at those beautiful clouds. Amazing. We're actually going down that valley as part of our pattern, such as it is. Now with the airport at just over 5,000 feet, we're going to maintain about 7,000 feet until established, just to be safe. Oh, thunder, lightning. 2 miles away. The airport should be just under the nose, but again, can't see it. I can cheat, of course. Let's go outside here. It's actually down there. It's very, very hard to see. It's just a grass strip, but it's just down there. So it wants left traffic. So what I'm going to do is reduce power now. Try to get a fairly nice descent, and we'll turn to the right and head away. Now 1.5 would be the reciprocal. There. 2,000 feet per minute rate of descent, which is probably a little bit too much. Now I've got to keep my wits about me a little bit here. I'm not sure I'm in the right spot. I might need to go over this ridge line. So we'll just take our time a little bit. Under 10,000, landing lights can go on, oxygen can go off. Let's pop this open so I get a better view of where we are and what's occurring. Yeah. Really think I need to be over there, so we'll ease up on this descent. There. I think we're going to find the airport is behind us. You know what? I am in the right place. But there's no way I'm turning here. I can't see anything. The weather came in really quickly. Put some power back into the prop. Sorry, increase the prop. Maintain our altitude as we turn around here. I see it. I went a little bit too far, but that's okay. It's a very, very agile aircraft. There we are. That's better. Now we'll continue that descent. The runway is actually over there, to the right a little bit, 45 degrees, so 2 o'clock for me. Again, reducing power now. I'm going to slow down a little bit. Put out the spoilers. Coming down on 7,500 feet. Aircraft really does want to drop quite rapidly. I need to stay on that. The spoilers in. And we will maintain 7,000 for now. That will help us drop some speed as well. You can hear the wind buffeting now. It's getting really quite gusty. Alright, first stage of flaps. Under 132 we can drop the gear down. I'm not going to do that just yet. I want a clearer view of where we're going. Which is there. Okay. So gear down. Lights are all on. Prop is full. We'll go mixture full rich at this point. Slowing down nicely. Next stage of flaps. And this close we could actually go final full flaps. All visual. No VASI lights, no PAPI lights, everything is visual. Watch your rate of descent, like I wasn't. I was at 2,000 feet per minute rate of descent right there, which is very dangerous this close and in this kind of terrain. Now this airstrip is used a lot by islanders. We're probably going to see one or two of them parked at the end of the runway. we're down. We just let the aircraft run to the end of the runway. Again, steering with the toe brakes. It's a free castering nose wheel. And there we are. Welcome. A couple of islanders waiting to go. I'm going to use this area up here to turn around. Ready for the next video. Watch the wing on the fence. Lots of power to try to turn. There's a guy walking his dog. We're ready to go. So that's it for this first video. I'll quickly run through the shutdown here. So we'll pull the mixture all the way out. Like so. Then we'll just run through all these power switches. Turn everything off. Like so. We'll turn our landing lights, nav lights, strobe lights off. Pitot heat can go off. Avionics master I think can go off. Remember, there's no power on this, it just works or doesn't. So we'll turn that off. Alternator obviously off. Turn that off. Turn that off. Parking brake can go on. And we'll get some air in here. And that's it for this first video, this first look at the airports of Orbx's Tapini. As always, my name is Froogle. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you very soon.